Okay. Hey guys. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, whatever it may be for you. So I thought we would just go through a little bit more of learning how to crochet because a lot of people were interested when I did my first live, and we went through a couple of things, a couple of different stitches, and we learned how to crochet the whole time. And lots of people enjoyed it and hopefully learned a lot from it as well. But just as a recap, I think we'll quickly have a look at what we went through last time. We learned how to hold our hook. So holding our hook, we had our right hand. If you're a right-handed person, the right hand clasps the hook right underneath like that, with your thumb and second finger holding the hook, and then your third finger as the leading finger the entire time. And then you also had learning how to hold the yarn. And so what we did with that, with our left hand, we wrapped it around the fourth finger, wrapped it around the second finger a little bit, and then held the yarn at the end, the tail end, with our third finger and our thumb as well. And from there, we then learned also how to make a slip knot. So reminding you of how to make a slip knot, we just folded the yarn like this, and then we put in our hook, and then we grabbed the yarn and pulled it through that hole, and then pulled at the end there of the tail, and then started to then chain. So this was the next step that we learned. We learned how to chain and hold our hook as best as we could as we were chaining the entire time. So then after we learned how to chain, what we did was we learned how to make the magic ring. So if you recall, if you were here for my other live, what we did then was we wrapped the yarn around our second finger. Then we inserted the hook in the first strand of that X that we made, and then we pulled the yarn through underneath. Hello, welcome. And then we grabbed the yarn and pulled the yarn through that loop over there. And that was to make the magic ring. So then from there, we learned how to make some single crochets, and that was pulling the yarn through that magic ring and then pulling the yarn through the two loops right there. So we repeated that, I believe, 6 times. So we did this once, twice, here was number 3, and then we kept going until we completed that. You gave up on crochet, it was too hard. Oh no. It can be a little bit trying at first, but once you get past that hurdle or that hump, then you'll be fine. Hello everyone, welcome. So this is how we were crocheting inside our magic ring. So you can see this is just a recap of everything we've done so far, and I had tutorial videos of this as well. So our hook goes inside the magic ring, it grabs our yarn, and then it pulls the yarn through. So that is how we crocheted inside the magic ring, and we just made single crochet stitches right there. And then in order to close the magic ring, we pulled this strand here and we pulled it all the way through like so. And then finally, to finish off that magic ring, we either went inside the first stitch that we made of that magic ring, so that would be underneath both of these two strands, the first and second here, which is the first stitch, and then we would pull the yarn through, and we can either do one of two things. We can either make a single crochet to start our second round, or we could have made a slip knot where we pull that second loop inside the first loop, and that would be a slip knot, not a slip knot, a slip stitch. So that's what we would do. Hello, welcome. Okay, so I just want to give you a little bit of terminology in case you don't know how to read. Let's open it up in the new page. So for example, if I was to write down, I wonder if you can see this, I'll have to put it this way. So if I said round 1, so remember we're crocheting in a round. So this is a round, right? Because it's a circle, so we're going in the round. And to write that, I wouldn't write round. I would instead abbreviate that to just an R. So R, and then because it's the first round, I would say R1. and then I would separate that by a colon right there, and then I would write what I'm doing in that first round. What do I have to do? So in this case, since we worked 6 single crochets in a magic ring, I would write it like this: work 6 single crochet, SC for single crochet, and then in a, now you could either write magic ring with MR, or you could write it in full, magic ring. So that would be the end there. That would be how I would write that in a written pattern using US standard terminology. But the last thing I would do is I would have some brackets at the end, and I would tell you how many stitches were in that entire round. So in my case, it would be 6, because this is what I would have here. Now I could also have some notes at the top. So let's say if I had a note, crochet in a spiral. Now, crocheting in a spiral just means you continuously crochet. There are no slip stitches to finish any of the rounds. And so that's really what it means there. And most crochet patterns want you to do that as well. And they might not even explicitly say it. It would just be up to you to figure out whether you want it. And from here, what I would do, so I would come in here. I've got my, let's try and put the hook inside this loop. This loop is not looking good, so I'm going to just detangle a few just to get it a little bit more prepared. This is very rough version of what we're doing, but it's just for tutorial purposes so we can see what we're doing. So instead, I would come into my first stitch right over here, and then I would pull the yarn through, and I would straight away start the second round by doing a single crochet if that was the next thing that I needed to do. Now, another thing that would then be written, usually to increase the circle, this would be something that says round 2, and then I would have in squared brackets something that says increase, INC for short, and then you would have an asterisk or a times, depends what you would use here, you might see an asterisk, and it would say times 6. Now the reason why it would say times 6, not always, but usually if you're working a bigger circle, is because you've only worked 6 single crochets in the magic ring in the beginning. If it said 7, then this would most likely say times 7. Again, if you're trying to make that circle bigger and bigger as you go along. And then I would have in brackets over here, it would just be increase. Increase means, what does increase mean? Let's see, increase equals 2 single crochet in the same stitch. And I'm just going to leave stitch as ST because that's the abbreviated form of that. So an increase, and I can show you what it means as we're doing that as well. So because there are 2 single crochets in a magic ring, 2 times 6 is 12. So we should end up with 12 stitches in the second round. So for example, I'm going ahead now. I can't remember how many. So I'm going to start this magic ring again and we'll just do it quickly. So I'm making the magic ring. I've got my hook. I'm going under. Then I'm pulling the yarn through. And then from there, we're just going to do quickly round 1, 6 single crochets in a magic ring. So let's work that here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we have now 6 single crochet stitches in this magic ring. I'm going to close the magic ring by pulling that yarn tail right here. And now I'm ready for the second round, and it says crochet in a spiral. So I'm going to continue the round here, and some might use a stitch marker as well, just so that they're clear on when this second round starts. Now I'm trying to enter my hook through that first stitch, and there we go. Now we've got increase. So let's do this first increase here. What we want to do is, in that first stitch, we're making an increase, which means 2 single crochet stitches in the same stitch. So we're working in this stitch right here, and we're making our first single crochet, and then we're putting our hook or inserting our hook back in that first stitch, and then pulling the yarn through and making that second single crochet. So there we go, we've got 1 and 2 single crochets, or the first increase. And then what I would do here in the second one, I would make another increase. So increase, hook goes in the same stitch, and finish that second single crochet. Now for number 3, pulling the first single crochet stitch, the second one. So there we go, that's 2. Now this is number 4, so we're making the increase in the 4th stitch. 1, 2. Number 5, 1, 2, making that increase in the 5th stitch, and the last stitch, because remember we only had 6 in the first round, so the last stitch, making that increase in the last stitch, 1 and then 2. So you can see how we are crocheting in a spiral right now. We're just starting from the beginning and we're working all the way around like that. So that's how you crochet in a spiral, and this is how you would write it. You'd work 6 single crochets in a magic ring. The second round would be increase times 6, giving us a total of 12. And your third round might look something like round 3, colon. You might have these square brackets again, and it might say this time single crochet, comma, increase times 6. So this is then what it would look like. And since we have 1, 2, 3, because remember increase is 2 single crochet stitches, so we've got 2 plus 1 is 3 in the brackets times 6 is 18. So that there would then how I write the third round. And then in order to complete that third round, since I'm doing single crochet increase 6 times, repeated pattern, here's my first stitch of the next round. What I would do, single crochet first, right? That's what it said, single crochet, and then increase in the next one. Increase means 2 single crochet stitches in that one stitch. So 2 single crochet stitches. There we go. So we've completed this pattern here 1 time. We've got another 5 to go. So it would be single crochet, then increase. 1, 2. 2 single crochet stitches in that one stitch. This is the third time that I'm going to repeat the pattern. So this is 1 single crochet first, and then an increase in the next stitch. So that's the third time now. Let's do the fourth time. Single crochet and an increase. Hello. Increase. There we go. So that is the fourth time. And we still have another 2 of the same pattern to repeat. And I'm just untangling my yarn over here so we've got more space. So this would be number 4, repeating the, I think it's number 4, it's either 3 or 4. Here we do the first single crochet and then an increase right here. 1, 2, and then again 1, and then 1, 2. So what I'm going to do at this point, just because I'm lost as to whether I've done this already, I think I've done it 6 times. I'll just count. There should be 18 stitches in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, so we are done. So that would be the third round. And that's essentially how you begin reading a pattern, just like that. You're crocheting in a spiral. You've worked 6 single crochet stitches in the magic ring. So we learned how to make that magic ring. We learned also how to write this out and abbreviate it in the way that we need to see it written so that we can follow a tutorial or a written pattern. Then the second round is increase times 6, giving us a total of 12 stitches. And round 3 would be repeating this pattern, single crochet, increase times 6, giving us a total of 18. Now, if I was to continue and I wanted to make the circle bigger, the pattern would be, see how we've got 1 single crochet and then an increase times 6? If I wanted to increase it even more, then the next one would be 2 single crochet, comma, increase times 6, giving us a total of 24 stitches. And then I could do that. And if I wanted my circle even bigger, then in round 5, I would write 3 single crochet, comma, increase times 6, giving us a total of 30 stitches. And I would keep following this pattern if I wanted my circle. So here's how my circle began. Then it's getting a little bit bigger second round, a little bit bigger third round, a little bit bigger fourth round, a little bit bigger fifth round, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until you've got the correct size that you want. And once you've got the correct size, let's say this is how much we wanted, but now I needed to work my crochet pattern upwards so that I'm getting some definition now. So let's see, here's a chicken. Here's an example. And I did 6 single crochet, then increase, so giving my total of 12, then single crochet increase, giving a total of 18. Fourth round was 2 single crochet increases, and I said to myself, that's the size I want. I don't want to go any more than that. So let's just pretend this said 3 single crochet increases and I have a total of 30. So what I would do now, if that's the size I wanted, and now I wanted to work my way up. So you can see as soon as you start working up now, it's just getting taller and taller. And in order to do that, I might specify that as something like this. Round 6 to, and I've got a dash for my 2. So let's say this is round 6, and I'm trying to work out how many rounds I've got. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rounds. Okay, so 9 rounds where it's completely straight. I have no increases. So I would do 6 plus 9. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So round 6 to 15. Then I would have it read 30 single crochet. Then I would have brackets, and it says 9 rounds. So it helps me know how many rounds I need of this 30 single crochet. And then in brackets over here, I would have 30, telling me that in each round I've got 30 stitches. And that way I would make then something like this. Hello. And this is what it would look like. So this makes it nice and easy to follow. And that's how you read the pattern. And so any of my tutorial videos where you see me crocheting something, I've got this written at the bottom of the screen so you can read the pattern as you go along. And then also, if you ever purchase any of my patterns, this would also be the way that I write my pattern. So this is how you'd follow along as well. Now, the only thing we need left is how to close my pattern. So you can see we started my magic ring. We worked increasing to make this circle bigger and bigger. Once we finished and we got the right size, we just worked up by having a number of rounds that we worked up in. But how do we make it so that we can go inward, not outward anymore once we get to this point? Because you can see that we're working in, right? Meaning that each round is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing I would do is obviously have the next round. So round 16 column. Now I can see the highest that I went to up here in my increases was a 3 single crochet increase. So then logically, I would need, in order to make this smaller, we would have a square bracket, 3 single crochet, comma, and instead of an increase, we would have a decrease. And I'm going to show you how to make a decrease in just a second. But this is how you would write decrease, DEC. So that would be the abbreviation there. And then you would times this. It could be an asterisk if it's a written pattern on a computer or something, or you can have that time symbol, and then you would have 6 as well. Now the reason 6 again, because logically, if you count this up, it equals to 30. So for example, 3 and then a decrease, I've got to show you what that means, but this essentially is 2 single crochet stitches that you work into 1. So if I was just to count this as 2 for now, this equals 5. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 times 6 is 30. So that's how I know this makes sense, because it reiterates this number here. But then if I was to actually write this number, remember this decrease is 2 single crochet stitches made into 1. So then in that round, this would only represent one single crochet stitch. So then it would be 3 plus 4, which is, 3 plus 1, which is 4. 4 times 6 is 24. So then I would write 24 here. And that's just logically how to do it. I see the biggest increase that I've done, 3 increase. So then in order to work my way down, I'd have 3 decrease. In the next round, it would be 2 single crochet, decrease, times 6. Let's just keep the asterisk here. And it would be 18 because 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 times 6 is 18. And this would be our round 17. Then in our round 18, we would write it as 1 single crochet, or you could just take away the 1 and just write single crochet. That still means 1 single crochet. Decrease, and times by 6. Here we'd have 12 because 1 plus 1 is 2 times 6 is 12. And then in our final one, round 19, we would write it as there's no more single crochets, and have a look. So we've got increase times 6. So this one would be decrease times 6, which would just be 6. So that is how we would write a pattern for a chicken, let's say, for example, except I'm not working as many increases. I've only gone up to 2 increases here, but then we've got our flat rounds all the way up, and then we decrease it one step at a time until we have it all as a decrease. And that would be the body of this chicken, for example. There can be little other things that we include, like a bobble stitch or something like that, but I would write that out in the pattern so you can see exactly where you need to insert it as well. And then, for example, these eyes right here, and I'm actually going to show you today how to make a different sort of eye if you don't know how to make this type of eye, or you don't, if you don't have these black safety eyes. I'm going to show you a new way of making these eyes with just a French knot technique. But yeah, this would be how you'd make a duck, and how I would kind of write the pattern for that. And I say kind of because this doesn't exactly represent this. If I was to do this, I could show you, but it might take a little bit of time. But it would look something like this. It would just be bigger. That's all. Okay, so that's my duck. I said I was going to show you how to make a decrease. So why don't I do it with this one here, since I've got this already here. Okay, I've got red yarn that I'm working with, and I'm going to show you how to make this decrease. So we learned how to make the increase, but now let's learn how to make the decrease, okay? So we have our slip knot that we've made in this instance. As you can see I've got the slip knot right here. And I'm going to do that again just so you can see it. So I'm making a slip knot. Here I'm putting my hook in. I've got it. And now I'm going to put that second loop through the first loop to make that slip knot. Then I'm going to chain 1. And now I'm going to make a decrease as an example. So this is one way of making a decrease. And it's actually the most common method that is used to make it look invisible, as though you're not really seeing that stitch. So what I do is I'll insert my hook only through the first loop of that first stitch. Can you see how I haven't put my hook in the back loop? I've only got it in the first loop, or the front loop, I should say. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing in the next stitch. So now I've got my hook in 2 front loops. And when I say 2 front loops, I mean the front loop of the first stitch and the front loop of the second stitch. And then I'm going to pull the yarn through both of those. So you can see my hook is pulling it through both of those front loops like so. And then I'll continue to pull the yarn through 2 of those loops on the hook. And so now, from these 2 stitches, in the next round, I just had 1 stitch. So you can see that decrease worked out. So that I've got from 2 goes to 1. And then I would continue my piece just by doing a couple of single crochets And then where it says I need to do the second decrease, this is how I do it again. My hook goes inside the front loop, and then it goes into the next stitch in the front loop only, not the back loops. Then you pull the yarn through and continue it to pull the yarn through those 2 loops on the hook. So now I finished my second decrease. So my first one was over here. I did 2 single crochet stitches and then a second decrease. Okay, so then if I was to continue that, I could. So maybe we'll do one more decrease so we can see what a decrease looks like again. So here's a single crochet stitch, another single crochet stitch, and now a decrease. Insert the hook through the first front loop, and then front loop again. And then pull the yarn through those 2 front loops, and you can see I've stuffed it up a little over here. So let's do that again, making sure I just get it through the front loops. Front loops, pull the yarn through, and then pull the yarn through those 2 loops on my hook. So there we go, I've just made my third decrease. And you can see it's kind of getting smaller. You can see it's starting to pull and it's not really working up anymore. It's kind of folding over. And that's exactly what we want. You can see with this chicken here, it's folding over and moving inward. And so that's how you make the decrease stitch. And again, this is an example of just how you'd write it. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. It's just a little bit on learning how to read a pattern or write a pattern as you go along, working your decreases and your increases, and then your rounds, how many rounds you need, and that type of thing. So we've learned about the increase stitch. So this means increase, and increase means 2 single crochet stitches in 1 stitch. So we've done this today, and we've also done a decrease, which means decrease, if you want to expand that out, and that just means making 2 single crochet stitches into 1 through those front loops. So we've done that. We've also learned a slip stitch, and we have done a single crochet multiple times. Okay, so let's do a half double crochet now. Let's learn how to do this half double crochet. So what I might do is I'll unravel this just so it looks a little bit better. And is red an okay color? Everyone can see the red color. I hope so. Otherwise I can change it to a different color. Maybe orange or yellow. In fact, red is probably not the best color to use. So why don't I go ahead and change it maybe to a yellow. Okay, I'll just do a couple of single crochet stitches over here in the normal way that I make a single crochet stitch, which is just yarn under, yarn over. This is how I normally do it, yarn under, yarn over. Okay, so now what we're going to learn is how to do something that's called a half double crochet, abbreviated to HDC, half double crochet. Okay, so let's learn how to do this now. And I'm sure you would have seen this a lot in patterns and things as well. Or maybe you've seen it in designs, clothing designs, or beanies, especially beanies. For crochet beanies, the half double crochet or the double crochet is what's used. So let's do a half double crochet now. What you do is you wrap the yarn around your hook 1 time. So you can see I've wrapped it around. I put my hook underneath and I wrap it all the way around. I'm not moving this finger anywhere. I've still kept the tension nice and neatly there. And I just wrap it around once, okay? Then my third finger comes on top to hold that in place. And then I'm going to go into my next stitch. And then as I would do normally, I then pull the yarn through. And can you see now how I have 3 loops on my hook? So I've got 3 loops on my hook. For a single crochet stitch, it would just be 2 loops on the hook. But for a half double crochet, I've got 3 loops on the hook. And what's the next step now? So with a single crochet, you would then pull the yarn through 2 loops that were left on the hook. For a half double crochet, you pull the yarn through all 3 loops on the hook. And you can see it's a little bit taller, this stitch here, compared to my single crochet stitches over here. So let's do it again. I'm going to wrap the yarn and make another half double crochet stitch, pulling the yarn through all 3 loops on the hook. You can see how I'm quite slow, and let's have a look at the way that the hook is directed as well in this next one. So wrapping the yarn around the hook once, hello, going inside my next stitch, pulling the yarn through as normal, and then as I pull this yarn, see how my hook is facing downwards. That way it can capture this piece here and pull it underneath. And you see how I slightly turn upwards to get through 3 loops on the hook there. You can see all of these are the same size, and these are my single crochet stitches here, which are just slightly smaller than my half double crochet stitches. Now, what if I wanted to make a half double crochet increase? So let's say here I've got row 20, let's just pretend, and it's saying now I want a half double crochet increase. Thank you. Half double crochet increase, and let's say I wanted to do that 6 times as well. Let's see what a half double crochet increase means. Well, we know what increase means. It means 2 of the same whatever type of stitch in the 1 stitch below it. But now we know it's specifying that it's a half double crochet. So if it didn't have this half double crochet, it automatically means single crochet, meaning 2 single crochet stitches in the 1 stitch. But since I've specified that it says HDC, it means that the increase is using the half double crochet stitch. So let's do it. Let's do an HDC increase, or a half double crochet increase. Our normal half double crochet is just wrapping the yarn around once, going into the next stitch, and pulling the yarn through all 3 stitches as I go along. Yeah, but now I need to do the increase, make it again in the same stitch. So instead of automatically wrapping and going into the next stitch, I'll go into the same stitch that I worked with before. Okay, and so I'll just pull this through, and now I have worked my half double crochet twice in the same orange stitch below it. So that would be a half double crochet increase. Half double crochet increase in that stitch. So let's do it again in the next stitch, since we had 6 times. So that would be the first time that I did it. Let's do it a second time. So I'm wrapping the yarn, I'm going into the next stitch, I'm pulling the yarn through, and I'm making my first half double crochet. Okay, and then to make the increase, I'll wrap it again and go through the same stitch in the previous round, pull the yarn through, and pull the yarn through all 3 loops on the hook. So there we've got 1 increase, or 1 half double crochet increase, and here's my second half double crochet increase. And you just write it like that, HDC inc, or increase. And then depending on how many times you do it, you'd have times 6, and then in brackets, for example, this means 2 stitches, right? So because you're working 2 stitches in the same stitch. So this would be 2. 2 times 6 is 12. So this then would read 12. So that's what it would mean. Remember, if you did this 6 times, increase, 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 you'd have a total of 12 stitches, because look at the top here, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. If I did it another 4 times, I'd have an additional 8 of these stitches, making 12. So that is the half. Yes, wrap, go through, pull through loops. Yes, exactly. And that's how you remember that half double crochet. So half double crochet. I hope everyone got that. That's the half double crochet. So we've done that. Okay, look, we're getting there. We've done the slip stitch, single crochet stitch. We've done an increase, we've learned the decrease, and we've done a half double crochet stitch. Now we're going to look at a double crochet stitch. So this is where we take away the half. And let's learn how to do this now. A double crochet stitch, no longer that half double crochet. So let's do it. So we still wrap the yarn around one time only. We'll go into the next stitch and we'll pull the yarn through. So right now this is looking exactly like a half double crochet stitch. The next part right here is where it will differ. So instead of pulling the yarn through all 3 loops as we did for a half double crochet, this time we're going to pull the yarn through only 2 of those loops on the hook. So have a look at this. I'm pulling my yarn through only 2 of the loops on the hook. And I'm left with 2 loops on my hook. And then I'm going to pull the yarn through 2 as well. There we go. So the way I like to remember this, especially when I began, was let's see, wrap yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2. Wrap yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2. So that's how I remembered it. It's just like a little chant in my head. Wrap yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2. And that's how you do that double crochet stitch. So again, double crochet, wrapping the yarn once, hook goes in the stitch, pulls out some yarn, then you pull through 2 loops, and then you pull through the remaining 2 loops. There we go. That is the double crochet. But what if it said double crochet increase? Double crochet increase. And you can see this in maybe like a beanie pattern or something like that. And I'm just making this number here. I shouldn't have put brackets right there. But let's just pretend we've got times 6 again. This number could be anything depending on the designer or what it needs to be. Again, this would also read 12 here. Hello, welcome. And from that point, let's just see what this means. Okay, double crochet increase. So I think you guys are getting the point here. I'm going to wrap the yarn once. I'm going to go into my 1 stitch. I'm going to pull the yarn through 2 loops on the hook and then pull the yarn through 2 loops on the hook again. And then I'm going to wrap the yarn again and go into the same stitch so I can have the increase, pull the yarn through and pull the yarn through. So there we have our double crochet increase right here. These 2 stitches here, which are 2 double crochet stitches in the 1 stitch. So that would be the double crochet increase. So now we've done our double crochet. Okay, double crochet is done. We understand it. There's something that would be fun to learn as well. I mean, you probably wouldn't see this much. Well, no, I take that back. You might see this if you're working a beanie or something like that. But if you were to do a, let's go back to half double crochet, remembering we grab the yarn, we pull the yarn through, and then we pull the yarn through all 3 loops on our hook. So that's the half double crochet, remember. What if it said, what if our pattern said something like, hold on, let's go back here to our pattern. What if it said something like half double crochet decrease? And then you have it a number of times, let's say 6 times again, okay? What if it said something like that? Well, we need to work this out. So to do a half double crochet decrease, we would wrap the yarn. I remember with just a normal decrease, we went through the front loop of the first stitch and the front loop of that second stitch. That's exactly what we'd still do for a half double crochet decrease. Then we'd pull the yarn through 2 of those loops and see how we're left with 3 on the hook, 3 loops on the hook, and then we'd pull the yarn through all 3 loops on the hook right there. So that would be how you do the decrease for it with a half double crochet. Same with the double crochet. So let's do a double crochet decrease. We wrap the yarn still. We put the hook through 2 of the front loops of the next 2 stitches. We pull the yarn through those front loops, and then to complete the double crochet, we pull it through 2 and we pull it through 2. So there we've just learned how to do a half double crochet decrease and a double crochet decrease. What am I making? I'm not making anything at this point. I'm just teaching how to crochet and read a pattern and the types of stitches, just so I can help you guys understand how to read crochet as you go along, which is quite cool, because if you start learning how to do this and you're able to read, then you'll be able to read any pattern and design things yourself, especially as you learn how to make these stitches, hold the hooks and hold the yarn in your left hand. So that's how you would do that. So we've just learned the double crochet now. What about the treble crochet? And we can get higher and higher if we really wanted to. But we're going to stop on treble crochet in terms of the height and how many wraps that we do. So with a treble crochet, this time we are wrapping the yarn twice around the hook. So look, this is the double or the half double crochet. But then if we want treble, we're going to wrap it twice. So you can see I've wrapped it twice around my hook. Then I'm pulling it back so I can get into this stitch. I'm keeping the tension nice and tight over here. Then I pull the yarn through, and now if I expand this out, you'll be able to see that I've got, technically, they're all kind of merging into the one, but it is 4 loops on the hook. There are 4 loops here on the hook. And what I do is I pull the yarn through then 2 of the loops at a time. So I've just done the first 2. I'm coming to the second 2. And then here's the third lot of 2. So it's wrap the yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. Let's do it again. Treble crochet. Wrap the yarn, hook goes in, pulls out some yarn. Then I pull through 2. I pull through 2 again, and I pull through 2. And that is a treble crochet. Wrap the yarn, hook in stitch, pulls out some yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. So you can see it gets quite large over here. Let's do it again. Wrap the yarn, hook goes in, pulls out some yarn, pull through 2, and pull through 2. There we go. We've just completed the treble crochet. Treble crochet stitch right there. Okay, once more. Wrap the yarn twice. So you can see I've wrapped it twice around my hook. Hook goes in, pulls out some yarn. I'll then pull the yarn through 2 of those loops, and now I've got 3 on the hook left. I'm going to pull the yarn through 2 of those loops and have 2 loops left, and then pull the yarn through 2 of those loops to have 1 loop left on my hook. And that is the treble crochet. So we've done that now. So we've learned the single crochet, half double crochet, the double crochet, and just now the treble crochet. So I hope that's starting to make some sense for you guys. The next thing that we're going to do is the spike stitch. So I'm going to just unravel this now. And the spike stitch is not too difficult. In fact, it's not difficult at all. It's reminiscent of that single crochet stitch, except that we're placing our hook in a different spot. And I will show you this now. So let's just do a regular single crochet stitch. Regular single crochet stitch is the hook comes inside here, the next stitch. It will pull the yarn through and then pull the yarn through 2 of those loops. Okay, so that's just a regular single crochet. Let's do it again. Comes in the next stitch. Then I'm going to pull the yarn through and pull the yarn through. All right, so now we've recapped on that single crochet stitch. Now, what is a spike stitch? Well, instead of putting my hook right here, I'm going to go directly below into the row below and insert my hook right there. So you can see instead of here, I'm going right here. And then I will grab the yarn, pull that yarn through, and pull the yarn through. You can see I've kind of got an elongated single crochet stitch right here. If I did a single crochet over here, that's just a normal regular single crochet. But then in a spike stitch, instead of coming here, I would go directly below, right there. and then pull the yarn through. So now I've got 2 spike stitches with a single crochet stitch in between. Let's do it again. Single crochet stitch, I'm pulling the yarn through, and now a spike stitch. Instead of here, I go down here into the row below, pull the yarn, and continue that stitch. Now I have 3 spike stitches, and again, hello, welcome. I do a single crochet stitch as normal, but then a spike stitch instead of here as a regular single crochet stitch. I'm going to go down here directly below. And you can see it's starting to make this really neat pattern over here with our spike stitches. Yeah, so again, single crochet stitch as normal, and then a spike stitch instead of here directly below. Pull the yarn through. Okay, so there we go. We've got a lovely set of spike stitches with single crochet stitches in between it. And that is as simple as it can get. That's a regular spike stitch, and to abbreviate it, you just have SP dot stitch, ST, spike stitch. And that's how you would read it in a pattern. Spike stitch. Okay. What about this next one that says bubble stitch on our paper? What is a bubble stitch? Now this can be a little bit tricky at first, but once you got the hang of it, it no longer becomes tricky, as with all things, of course. Okay, so this is how we're going to do the bubble stitch. All right, so just giving myself a little bit of a stretch here. All right, so in order to do a bubble stitch, this is how we're going to begin it. We're going to start with just our regular half double crochet. In terms of we're wrapping the yarn, we're putting the hook through the next stitch, and we're pulling the yarn through. At this point, we're going to continue like we're doing a double crochet, meaning that we pull the yarn through 2 of these loops only. So I'm going to pull the yarn through 2 loops, and we have 2 loops left on the hook. Now if I wanted to complete this double crochet, I would pull the yarn through these 2 loops, but we're doing a bubble stitch. So a bubble stitch means that after I'm at this point, I'm going to wrap the yarn again. Wrap the yarn again and go into the same stitch that I was just in. Here it is, the same stitch. I'm going to pull the yarn through, and now I've got 4 loops on my hook, but I'm going to pull the yarn through 2 of these loops, only 2. And now I'm left with 3 loops on the hook. Next, we're going to wrap the yarn again. Go into the same stitch, pull the yarn through, and then pull the yarn only through 2 of those loops. And now I have 4 loops left on the hook. You see that? In order to do this again, to complete the bubble stitch, I'm going to wrap the yarn, go into the same stitch, pull the yarn through, but only pull the yarn through 2 of the loops. And now I have 5 loops on my hook. And once you have 5 loops on the hook, after you've repeated that over and over again, now you'll pull this yarn through all 5 loops. So pull the yarn through all 5 loops. And look, we have just completed a bubble stitch. I'm going to do a single crochet stitch in the next stitch, just so you can see it a little better. Looks like the bubble stitch is hidden, but if I just push behind, there it is. Can you see how it kind of puffs out a little bit? And this is exactly how I did the wings and the feet for the bird or the chicken or the duck, whatever this is. So this right here, this right here, this one here, and this one here is all what we call a bubble stitch. So I'm going to show you again. Let's do it again. Bubble stitch, here we go. Wrap the yarn, go into our first stitch. Pull the yarn through, but only pull the yarn through 2 loops. Now we have 2 loops on the hook. Wrap the yarn again, go into the same stitch, pull the yarn through, and pull the yarn through 2 loops. Now we have 3 loops left on the hook. Wrap the yarn, go into the same stitch, pull the yarn through, and pull the yarn through only 2 loops, leaving us with 4 loops on the hook. This will be the last one. Wrap the yarn, pull the yarn through, and pull the yarn through 2 loops, leaving us with 5 loops on our hook. Once we have 5 loops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we can pull the yarn through all 5 loops. And you want to do that nice and slowly so you don't get tangled up there. And that's how you do it. That's our second bubble stitch right there. Does that make sense to everyone? I'm just going to do a single crochet stitch over here in the next stitch. Just do a regular single crochet, push that out, and now I have 2 bubbles. 2 bubbles there. There we go. Should we do it one more time? Right, yes, if you want to see that one more time. Or if you want to move on. Bubble stitch, do you want to see it again? Yes, yes. If I don't get yeses, I'll just do it again anyway. I feel like it's good to have some recap. Anyone in the chat? Tell me. Yes, no. Okay, looks like no one's there. All right, well, we're going to keep going anyway. So I'll do another bubble stitch. Wrap the yarn. Goes through that first stitch and pulls the yarn through, leaving us with 2 loops on the hook. Wrap the yarn. Pull the yarn through. Pull the yarn through 2, 3 loops on the hook. Wrap the yarn. Pull the yarn through and pull the yarn through 2 loops on the hook. Last, wrap the yarn, same stitch, pull the yarn through and pull the yarn through 2 loops on the hook. So now we have 5 loops on the hook, and we're going to pull the yarn through all 5 loops on that hook. I'm just going to do a single crochet stitch in the next stitch, and then we can push out that bubble stitch. And there we go. There is our 3rd bubble stitch right there. So now we've learned how to make the bubble stitch. So let's tick that off our list. We're not making anything. I'm just showing you how to make stitches in crochet. All the different little crochet stitches that you need to know to be able to start reading patterns, even writing patterns, or just crochet in general. So I'm hoping this helps. And we started from the very beginning. We learned slip stitch, single crochet stitch. We did half double crochet. We did a double crochet, treble crochet. We did the spike stitch. We've just done the bubble stitch right here. We also learned about increases and decreases. So I hope this is helping. All right. Before we move on to the reverse crab stitch. Actually, I think I'm going to reverse these. I'm going to do this one first because it's fairly straightforward once we get the hang of it. And then we'll do the Pico stitch afterwards. So I'm going to do this now. I'm just going to unravel these. Here's the bubble stitch one last time to have a look at it. Bubble stitch, unraveling. We're taking it apart. Boom, they're all gone. We had some spike stitches over here. I'm not going to unravel those at this point. But what we're going to learn is the reverse crochet stitch, or it's otherwise known as the crab stitch. So reverse crochet stitch or the crab stitch. All it is, and it is simple once you get it, all it is just the single crochet stitch, but in reverse. That's it. So instead of going this way, as we normally do our single crochet stitch, here's our normal single crochet stitch. Here's another normal single crochet stitch. Here's one more normal single crochet stitch. Now, instead of moving this way towards our left, we're going to move that way towards our right. This is it. So we're going to, and this is the only tricky part, we need to give us a little bit more room and go into this stitch right here. The first stitch on our right. I'm going to put the hook through both of those front and back loops there. Then I'm going to grab the yarn and pull the yarn through. And you can see how I've got 2 loops on my hook, and then I'm going to pull the yarn through those 2 loops. Now it looks a bit strange at the moment, but you'll see this is used as kind of the last round that you ever do for decorative purposes. I'm going to go into the next stitch, still working towards my right, pull the yarn through, and pull the yarn through. Let's keep going just so we can see what it looks like. Hello! Pull the yarn through, pull the yarn through. Pull the yarn through, pull the yarn through. Pull the yarn through, pull the yarn through. Still working towards our right, so the reverse crochet. Working towards that right. Pull. Show cat. I don't have a cat. I'm not sure what you mean. Pull the yarn through, pull the yarn through. And I'm going to show you what this looks like as I do it over and over. Because you'll start to see that it kind of finishes the piece. Oops, I think we went in the wrong stitch there. Here. Oh no. Come in here, pull the yarn through, pull the yarn through. And look, can you see how we're kind of completing the round with this reverse crochet stitch, or this crab stitch? Crab because it's working itself backwards. That's how crabs walk. They walk backwards. So that's why we've done it as so. But there we go. That's the reverse crochet stitch. Very simple. It's just the single crochet stitch, but working in the opposite direction. And that's it. So that's the reverse crochet or crab stitch. So we'll tick that off because we've done that now. Next, we're going to learn this Pico stitch. And the Pico stitch or the Pico stitch is what we use to make the point of the sunflower. The sunflower petals. Each petal has a Pico stitch, and it creates that point that we want to see. Okay, so that is our sunflower. So let us work on a Pico stitch. Let's do that now. I'm pulling apart this reverse crochet because I can't continue working with it in the forward direction. So I have to pull it apart. Remember, we use it as decorative purposes and usually on the last round. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. What I'm going to do is do a double crochet. So here's a double crochet. We're going to pull the yarn through 2 loops and pull the yarn through 2 loops right there. Now at this point, the pattern will usually say like chain 1 or chain 2. Okay, so let's just imagine that that's what the pattern says. And then let's say it says Pico stitch. Now this is where we need to find something that's very important. Can you see these 2 side stitches over here? I've inserted my hook now through them, but if I take my hook out, we've chained twice, but they're going to be here, the Pico stitches up here. So we put our hook through those 2 loops right there. And if this is your first time, it's sometimes difficult to look and find it, but once you get the hang of it, it's quite easy after a while. Then you pull the yarn through and you'll make a slip stitch directly into that first loop on the hook. And now we've created that point right there. And you might have to do another half or double crochet in the same stitch or something like that. There we go. And then it may say single crochet in the next stitch. Then it might say double crochet in the next stitch. So we do a double crochet. Then it may say chain 2 and Pico stitch. So remember, we have to find this the horizontal 2 loops. So there we go. There's our 2 loops right there. It's not down here, it's over here. Then we pull the yarn through and we do a slip stitch directly into that second loop on the hook to make that point. Then it might say another half double crochet in the same stitch. And then it might say single crochet in the next stitch. And then that pattern might repeat. So you can see you can even make a crown using this pattern. If I worked all the way around, because you're always getting these points. Does that make sense? Okay, let's do it again, just so we can understand it again. So you'd have maybe a double crochet first in the next stitch, double crochet, then chain 2, and now here's the picot stitch. Putting our hook through those 2 side loops of that double crochet. Then we pull the yarn through and continue to slip stitch it in that second loop. Do you see how I kind of changed the position? Like I'm always twisting and turning to make it easier for myself. Then it might say another double crochet in the same stitch and then a single crochet in the next stitch. So now we've just completed 3 picot stitches in amongst some double crochet stitches and chaining. And that's how you would do that there. So that would be the picot stitch. And again, like you can use this for leaves, you can use this for making sunflowers, you can use this for making crowns, you can use it for different decorative purposes, but it just gives you that point when you do that picot stitch, which is really, really nice to have. So it's a good stitch to know in your repertoire of learning all of these stitches. Okay, so we've done a bunch of stitches now. We've also learned how to write a basic pattern. And now just a couple of final tips before we head off now. What we're going to do is, I said, we're going to learn how to do the French knot. If you didn't have black safety eyes, we'd need to learn how to make this French knot, because what we could do, and I'm going to show you 2 different sizes of doing this as well. So I'm going to grab some black yarn and I don't know where my scissors are, but I'll use these big chunky pair of scissors. I'm going to cut some black yarn, and then I'm going to cut this strand of black yarn as well. So I've got 2 strands, and I'm going to use 2 different size needles. So here's my first relatively big needle, and here's my second relatively smaller needle. So it's quite a small needle there compared to this one, which is quite big, right? You see a massive difference between these 2 needles right here. Okay, so at this point, what we're going to do is I'm going to use the bigger needle first to show you how to do this French knot. Okay, so I'm going to just insert my yarn through the eye of the needle right here. Okay, so I've cut some yarn, I've inserted my yarn through the needle, and let's say we wanted to make an eye because we didn't have safety eyes. I'm just going to do it on the back as an example here. The first thing I'm going to do is enter my needle through any one of these stitches. It doesn't really matter what one, because we're not going to use this in the end. This is where we're going to hide the yarn right at the end. And then the needle is going to come up exactly where we want our eye. So let's say this is the point at which we want our eye to appear within this stitch over here. So now I'm going to pull the yarn through until I have a little bit of a tail left over here, but enough yarn that I can work with over here. You don't want to pull this all the way through, because then you've just lost the end where you can't tie it together and hide it. Okay, now this is how you make the French knot, and you have to watch the positioning of the needle and how I wrap the yarn, okay? Because if I do it the wrong way, as soon as you pull the yarn, it's just going to slip all the way through. So you have to get the positioning right. So watch this carefully. The needle comes directly underneath and pointed up, wherever the yarn is. So here's my yarn, and I'm going to directly point it up like so, okay? So it's kind of upwards. Then I'm going to grab the yarn and pull it through like this. Okay, so now I have the yarn. Hello. The next thing that I'm going to do is pull this yarn around. I don't need so much of a needle up here, so I'll pull this slightly backwards. I'm going to pull the yarn, and then I'm going to wrap the yarn over and directly upwards. And I might do this depending on the thickness I want. I'm just going to try 4 times. And I'm not going to do this super tight as well. I don't want it super tight. Now what I'm going to do is insert this point of the needle in the same stitch. But I don't want this to get in the way. So I'm kind of pulling it out of the way. You can see that there. Now I've got my needle straight in that same stitch with everything still wrapped around. And I can either put my needle anywhere else. So maybe I might want to go where I want the second eye. So let's say this is where I want the second eye. Okay. And now I'm going to place my thumb over the top here as I pull the needle through. So watch this. I'm going to push this slightly. And then I'm going to pull this, placing my thumb over the top so nothing, and I'm just going to pull the yarn through. I'm just slightly holding this on top so it doesn't move. And I'm going to just pull, 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 pull. And now I can lift up my arm and look at that. I can even pull this slightly as well. And look, I've just made myself an eye using the French knot technique. Okay, let's say this is where I want my second eye, right here. Okay, so I'm already ready. I've pulled this enough. It's nice and tight. Looks good. Now have a look again, the positioning of my needle. Remember the positioning of the needle as you do this. It has to be the same every time. I'm going to put the needle underneath and directly insert it at a diagonal. Then I'm going to pull this yarn underneath whilst my needle is still at this diagonal. You can see that there. And then I'm going to, once I've got the yarn underneath here and it's on the left side, I can then turn my needle to the other diagonal and start wrapping. Not too tightly. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Now I want this needle to go into the same stitch space, but I don't want this to get in the way. So I'm going to directly pull it behind. I'm going to slightly move the needle back. I'm going to find that stitch space. I'm into it now. And I'm just going to go out here. I'm not going to use this. I'm just going out in a different place. And you'll see it won't matter later. But look, I'm going out in a different place. I'm going to put my thumb over the top. I'm going to pull now the yarn through. You can see slightly, so I'll just release it a little bit. Pull it slowly, not too fast. And there we go. You just might want to reshape it. And it's the thickness that I want so that this eye doesn't fall straight into the stitch. So I wrapped it around using 4-ply yarn, a bigger needle, and I wrapped it around 4 times so that I could create this desired thickness. Now, if I wanted to finish this, let's say I've made my 2 eyes now. If I wanted to finish this, all I would have to do, I want this piece of yarn to end up over here. Okay, so I'm going to insert this yarn through the same stitch here. And I'm going to insert this, come out in the same stitch space where this is left. Okay, so you watch this disappear and it will come out here. Boom, disappeared over there, coming out here. And what I would do at this point is tie a knot. So let's just pretend I tie a knot. I'm not going to do this tight because I don't want this on my duck. I'm just showing it as an example. So I'll tie all of that. Then I will tighten it really nice and tight. I will cut this and then I will insert this part into the body. And that is how you make a French knot. So that's one way, which is really cool. Okay, but let's say I don't want this size. I don't want this French knot size. It's too big. Let's just imagine it's too big. So what can we do? How can we make it smaller? Number 1, you can use a smaller needle, as we have here. And then the second step is you can also, if you're working with cotton yarn, pull off 2 of the strands. So this is 4-ply cotton yarn. I'm going to pull it and break it apart. So now I have not 4-ply, which means 4 strands of yarn to make up the cotton yarn, the 4-ply cotton yarn, but now I only have 2. Now you can see that. Now I've got two strands. So I'm going to use 2 strands as well as my smaller needle. I'm going to insert my yarn through the eye of the needle, and then I'm going to just do this anywhere, it doesn't matter where. So I'm going to insert my hook, and you do have to be careful with the smaller needle that you're inserting right into the stitch space. Hello. Then I'm going to take out my needle anywhere, and in this place it's not going to matter because this is just an example. I'm pulling my yarn, and now I'm going to remember the placement of the needle to the diagonal, underneath the yarn to the diagonal, so your right diagonal. Then I'm going to grab the yarn underneath. Okay, it's underneath now, and now I can shift the needle to the left diagonal, and now I can wrap the yarn around the needle once, twice, 3 times. I might stop there. 4 times, I could stop there, or 5 times, and this is definitely where I'll stop at this point. Now I'm going to insert this sharp needle into the same stitch space, and I want to make sure I'm getting that same stitch space. And see how I unraveled it accidentally? Whoopsies. I'm just placing this back on. Sometimes you will have to start again a lot, especially if it's your first time or you're working with smaller needles. I'm going to insert my hook through that space. I'm popping my needle out through another space. I've got my thumb over the top. It just helps me to direct it all. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to pull the yarn through, and I think I've already stuffed this. Yeah, I have stuffed it. And the reason why I have stuffed it up is because either I didn't have enough thickness, or when I first stuffed it up, it just didn't work out well. Well, let's do it again. Let's make it work. See, even if you've done this a ton of times, it's not always going to work out perfectly for you. Everyone makes these mistakes, and we might just be working with quite thin yarn here where it just won't work anyway. I'm going to wrap all of that. Same stitch. This one should work. I just have a good feeling about it. Pull the yarn, and I think I can see I have wrapped it too tightly, but it's okay, we're getting there. And I'm just going to pull. And I can even poke my needle in here to pop it up just a little bit, so I know it's not going to go all the way. And now look, it could even be like a nose if I put it in the right spot. But can you see how it's a smaller size there of a French knot? So it just depends what size you want. You need to work at how much of the yarn you want, how many loops you wrap around. But it's all just about that technique of starting to your diagonal, grab the yarn, then you can change the diagonal, then you can wrap nice and loosely, put it in the same stitch and come out anywhere you want. And that's how you make the French knot. I hope that helps for some of you with that French knot technique. That's how you make the wonderful French knot. And it can come in such handy, like it just can be so handy when you need to make some type of amigurumi animal, but you don't have the eyes, or the eyes might be considered too dangerous for a little kid. And so the French knot is the best next thing, in my opinion, for that. So yeah, that's the French knot. Okay, the last thing that we're going to do is changing colors. Changing yarn colors. Where to change the yarn color. And then we will finish up. Okay, now if you want to change the yarn color, this is the way I do it. What I'll do, let's say I've got 2 stitches left before I want to change the yarn color. So in the first stitch, I'll do the normal yellow. And then this is my last stitch where I have the yellow color. So in the last stitch of that same color, what I'll do is I'll pull the yarn through. But instead of pulling the yarn through at this point to finish my single crochet, I'm going to get my new color, let's say it's orange, and this is the color that I'm going to pull through the 2 loops. So you can still see that I've got my 2 stitches with that same color, but then before I finish that stitch, I've pulled orange yarn through, and then I've kept working now with orange. And let's say in 2 stitches time, I want to change the yarn color back to a different color. So here's my first orange stitch. This will be my second, but I'm not going to finish it by pulling the orange yarn through. Instead, I'm going to grab back my yellow yarn and pull the yellow yarn through. So now I've got 2 yellow and 2 orange. Let's say I want another 2 yellow. So I'm going to, here's my first one, and on my second one, I'm not going to pull the yellow through to finish it. Instead, I'm going to pull the orange yarn. And now I've got 2 yellow, 2 orange, 2 yellow. Let's say I'm making another 2 orange. 1 and 2. And now to finish this, I'm going to grab the yellow and pull the yellow through. And then I can continue in that same pattern over and over and over again, or just at any point where I need to change the yarn color. That's exactly what I'll do. Once I get to that last stitch of that one color, I'm going to pull the new color through those 2 loops left on the hook, so then I can finish it like that. And that's how you change colors in a pattern. That's probably one of the neatest ways, I'd say, in changing a color without having to cut the yarn or do anything like that. So that is what we have there. Okay, so we have completed everything on our list. We have done the slip stitch. We then did the single crochet. We did the half double crochet stitch, the double crochet stitch, the treble crochet stitch, the spike stitch, the bubble stitch, the picot stitch, the crab stitch or reverse crab stitch. This should actually read reverse single crochet stitch. SC for single crochet. We learned about increase, we learned about decrease, we did the French knot technique, and changing colors. So I hope that helps everyone. We've been here for a good hour or so, and I hope there's lots that you learned today. And I'll try and have tutorial videos of these coming out as well in the next week or so you can follow those in case you need a second reference. And I'll break it up into smaller videos so that with each technique I've just got one video for you. So if you need to find specific what you need to learn or whatnot, then it's right there for you. And also, yeah, don't forget I have tutorial videos out on my channel, so go check those as well if you haven't already. And once you start learning how to crochet, this will be really fun for you to do, and you'll be able to follow my tutorials or read other people's patterns or read my own patterns or things like that. But anyways, I hope that was helpful. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. And I guess we'll end it here. See ya, everyone. Thanks for coming today. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Enjoy. Bye-bye.